Capriglione to speak for the bill.
First, I want to thank Speaker Phelan for putting this bill out there and for changing the tone and helping everybody understand exactly what this bill does. I'm sure you've all seen on Twitter and other places as AI goes and expands the message and the inaccuracies of what this bill does. And so you can see today, right now, how artificial intelligence, generative AI, can be used to spread misinformation and disinformation, in this case, about a bill about itself. This bill is clear. It is not about the general public being able to create a meme. What this bill does is it requires a disclosure when a candidate, an office holder, someone attempting to influence the election is lying. They can still lie, of course, some always will, but all this bill does is require that disclosure. For those of us who have been paying attention and working on generative AI for a long time, it's not about when these lies can be spread or how accurate they can be. That can already happen today. I have seen just in the past year that the deception that can occur goes beyond anything we ever thought possible. Just a year ago, I would not have thought that you could create whole entire videos, change people's voices to try and not only influence them, but steal their money. And so when I look at this bill, this is not a bill about serving us. This is about a bill so that we can serve the public, so that they can be better informed. Companies all over the world have already decided to disclose artificial intelligence, whether it's Google and Meta, and all we're saying is time for politicians to do that as well.
Will the gentleman yield for a question?
Will the gentleman yield for questions? Gentleman yields.
I hear your concern about generative AI. My question is this bill narrowly tailored to only deal with AI?
The bill, as it stands, is tailored to go and provide disclosure that the ad, whether it's video or image, is trying to deceive the public. And so I know a lot of times people have been saying, hey, is it okay for us to be able to lie? All this bill is saying is, should you have to tell the truth? And for once, we have a bill that says that, yeah, we have to be honest.
I want people to tell the truth.
And I don't understand, if I can just finish the question, why there are people who would oppose being forced to tell the truth. We already have ads everywhere having to disclose what we do. And the speaker mentioned it several times, that this is normal campaign disclosure. If you spend $100 or more in your campaign, you have to put on the bottom of it, political ad paid for by Brent money. Now, if you're using generative AI, in an attempt to deceive not the candidate on the other side, but in an attempt to deceive the public, either it's because you're mailing 10,000 people or you're sending a broadcast commercial to 200,000, all this bill is saying is, tell the people that you're not being truthful. And I don't know how anybody can oppose that.
I absolutely want to tell the truth. I do tell the truth.
Well, I hope you absolutely want to, but I hope you do.
I will answer to God for every word that comes out of my mouth. I understand that. What I don't want is the Texas
God
Ethics
doesn't need a
Commission.
disclosure, but sometimes when you have technology like this, you have to provide notice.
I don't want the Texas Ethics Commission to become a ministry of truth to decide whether or not something is true or not. I don't want something to decide.
If you remember in 1984, in the Ministry of Truth, that's where they created lies. But those lies were created by the politicians and the candidates and the office holders, and that's what this bill goes and ascribes the penalty to. The penalty is not to the general public. The benefit we're providing is to the public. And the only thing I hear, no offense, and with full respect, is you trying to defend the lies.
The benefit will be for the members of this body and for other politicians who, by the way...
I don't want to provide the politicians any more benefits. Let's provide the public the benefit.
The politicians are the ones that are going to get a mailer in their mailbox, pick up the phone and call their sheriff, pick up the phone and call their police chief.
I'm not worried about the politician. What I'm worried about is like...
Don't interrupt me, please.
Members, please do not speak over each other.
They're going to call their DA because politicians have the kind of power to do that. The guy in his basement creating a meme where he puts a rhinoceros horn on my face and calls me a rhino is the person who's going to be attacked here, not me. I've got a voice. I've got a platform. I've got the ability to stand up and say, no, that's not true. And the answer to lies is truth. The answer to lies...
And which is what a disclosure is, right? And so, and again, no offense, I don't really care about your feelings. I don't think the public does because you're a politician. What we're trying to say is that everybody can see this today. Everybody knows that almost everything, a lot of what they read is just not true. There's a lot of misinformation. There's a lot of lies being spread. Most content is being created by artificial generative intelligence. That's just the reality. And so what we're doing with this bill and with others that we have passed and are going to pass is provide the public that disclosure, to provide them the ability to know to the full extent that we can what is true and what is not. And I don't think anybody in this chamber opposes providing disclosure about what we're doing. So,
I'm just
anyway,
astonished that the people in this body would think that creating a criminal offense and putting
Well,
the
we make laws.
Texas Ethics Commission in charge of deciding what is true and what is not true cannot lead to enormous abuses and will lead to enormous abuses, and that's why this kind of law has not been in place before.
Well, it hasn't been in place because
we
generative
have free
AI has-
speech. Thank you.
Again, with due respect, the law hasn't been put in place because of generative AI being new. But anyway,
Mr. Little, for what purpose?
Does the gentleman yield for questions?
Will the gentleman yield for questions?
Chairman, help me figure
The
out if
gentleman
I'm...
yields.
Thank you. Chairman, help me figure out if I'm reading this right. The first category, it says this section applies to a person, only to a person who is an office holder, candidate, or political committee. That's A1.
and spends money in a campaign.
No. That's not what it says.
Or spends money in a campaign.
Okay. There's three categories. I'm just dealing with
Yep.
category one. I think that if I'm an office holder and I retweet something else from someone else that falls into this category of an altered image, I think I'm guilty of a Class A misdemeanor. Don't you agree?
I think if you're an office holder or candidate holder, people consider you to be a leader, and you should probably not spread misinformation and
So
disinformation.
the answer to my
And
question is yes, right?
I did not say that. I mean, the reality is that what your job is as a leader, and as you'll learn, is to go and to represent people, to go and pass legislation that helps the people, not your donors, not your contributors. First and foremost, we work for the people.
Chairman, that wasn't my question. If you can offer an answer to my question, I think it's going to matter to everyone in here. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they've already decided what they're going to do.
I think most people have,
Hold on a second.
luckily.
Hold on a second. I think if I retweet an image from someone else, I'm guilty of a Class A misdemeanor because I'm an office holder.
Well, I hope that you do not retweet misinformation. I hope that you don't knowingly try and influence an election by lying.
It sounds like the answer to my question is yes.
I don't know what the retweet has to do with this bill. This talks about whether you're spending money, whether you're deliberately trying to influence an election by spreading, generating, and creating generative AI in order to manipulate the outcome.
It says a person may not, with the intent to influence an election, knowingly cause to be published, distributed, or broadcast. So I think if I'm
you
using...
know, well, I mean, you
I'm
answered
sorry,
the
I
question.
wasn't done with my question.
So
Chairman,
you caught yourself.
Chairman, I wasn't done with my question. Mr. Speaker,
Mr. Little, for what purpose?
does the gentleman yield for questions?
Yes.
The gentleman has yielded for questions.
Isn't it true that if I am an office holder and I cause something to be published or republished from someone else, then I'm guilty of a Class A misdemeanor?
Well, I heard you pause for a second when you said the word that mattered, which was knowingly. So yes, if you are knowingly spreading disinformation, you are culpable. And that's true for a lot of other things, knowledge and intent. And since we've had this conversation, you'd have a hard-pressed case to say you didn't know what the law was. But thank you.
The chair recognizes Mr. Manuel